the throw, fire, and down! Incomplete down at the goal line by San Diego! Tomlinson, off the left side, Tomlinson sidestep. Hello, history books. I think they have to now. Here's Sproles. Sproles inside the 10, inside the 5, and the Chargers win the game.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Walkthrough. This is The Walkthrough Week 6. We're obviously talking about Chargers and Cowboys here, and we're very lucky to have Ahmad Bell from the... No, I'm blanking on the name of your podcast. I'm sorry.
Cowboy Cast, WeareDC4L on FFSN.
The Cowboy Cast. So, we are obviously, this is a crossover episode. We're both on the Fans First Sports Network. So, Ahmad, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. We have a lot to talk about. We've got a couple of teams that are looking for a big win here in Week 6. A couple of teams, I think, with some similarities through the first few weeks of the season, some differences. So, let's kind of dive right into it. I kind of want to talk about, I think, one of the bigger overarching themes for both teams, which is for the Cowboys, it's the departure of Kellen Moore, and for the Chargers, it's the arrival of Kellen Moore. So what has losing Kellen Moore meant to the Dallas Cowboys offense, and how has it affected their identity?
So, when I think about Kellen Moore, man, I have good things and bad things to say about Kellen Moore, honestly. I really believe that, Kellen Moore was creative and has a creative offense, and it scored points. It was proven that it would score points. And I mean, we were one of the best offenses, and for 2 years in a row, we were one of the highest scoring offenses, and that's what he brings. That he's that type of guy. But I do think that there were blemishes, and that was one of the reasons why we had to let him go. And not on top of that, I think Mike knows this is his year. He got to get it done, so he would rather, be able to fall on his own sword than, it be somebody else kind of in the front ground. I'm not one of those guys who will badmouth somebody who left, but I'm going to tell it like it is, though. I feel like that Kellen Moore's a guy who will take your running back out of the game and will over-scheme and make things more difficult than they have to be. Sometimes turn around, handing the ball to your running back, letting him run out the clock is the best thing to do instead of putting the ball up again. And I've seen he did that a couple of times this year for you guys. And I was like, there go Kellen, but all in all, he is a good guy with the X's and O's. He's not a Shanahan, or he's not the guy at Miami. I forget my guy's name, Mike McDaniel. Yeah, but he's not one of them. But he's a good X's and O's guy on the offensive side of the ball.
So how has the Cowboys' offensive identity changed since Kellen Moore left? It seems like, just looking over box scores and watching some of their games, it seems like they're struggling at times to create explosive plays, and their offense is kind of stalling out at times. So how has their identity changed?
So it's quick passing. What Mike has wanted to do, Coach Mike, I think, has wanted to get the ball out of Dak's hands real fast, so that, he won't be waiting on routes to develop. And then, so you have, if you look at it and you look at the numbers, you'll see that he's getting the ball out of his hands way faster than he was when Kellen was here. Difference is the yards per play is cut in half. Dak had, I think it was 12, 13 yards per play with Kellen. Now it's like 6, right? It's not a bad thing, right? Because we're dinking and dunking down the field. And I also think, being able to go to 12 personnel and turn around and run is different. And again, we're only seeing the sample size. We're five games in, just like y'all are 5 games in. You got to kind of give it a little bit. Talk to us on the 10th week. If it's all gone to heck in the handbasket in the 10th week, then we can say this little science experiment didn't work. Clear the beakers, wash them out. Let's do another thing, you know.
And how's Dak playing this year? I know he struggled on Sunday. How are things going for Dak and the new offense with the new philosophy?
Again, Dak is not hitting. He's not throwing for 200 and 300 yards a game like he was under Kellen. But at the same time, Dak is he was looking good until he just totally quit. I have to say this. He totally quit in the 49er game, and I've never seen him quit before in his 8 years here, but he quit. That was a horrible effort by him. I can't defend for it. Most of the time I would try to defend for it, but 58% completion rate, 153 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions won't get it done, man. That won't get it done at all, But before that, 261, 1 touchdown, a passer rating of 108, 249, 1-1 passer rating of 78, and then 255 and another passer rating of 112. So he's around because if you know his overall passing rating in 8 years is at a 90. So he's still kind of around that, but the yards per play is not enough. It's not what you saw when he had Kellen.
And is that as much a function of him maybe not seeing the field and not hitting guys when they're open as it is the offensive scheme, or is it just all getting the ball out of his hands quickly?
I think it's both, because even when Kellen was here, I saw times Dak miss wide open receivers, wide slap open, and even in this game against San Fran, you saw CD get frustrated because he would be open a couple of times, and Dak went down the field. I think sometimes he tries to play hero ball, and he doesn't see the field the way he should see the field, and that hurts him, right? That hurts him. So I know we blame Kellen a lot, and Kellen had something to do with it, but Dak did too. So,
That's usually the way it works, right? The quarterback and the offensive coordinator have something to do with it.
Right.
You can scheme up the perfect play, but if the quarterback isn't seeing the field, doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And it's something that you said. I like that, right? Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, when there's 3rd and 15 and you see receivers running wide open, that's scheme, right? And you can't, that's something that is blowing my mind, right? Because these guys are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to coach these guys. And yet those are the only 2 offensive minds that you're seeing scheming wide receivers open. I don't understand this. Why is this such a thing? Like, is this a skill that we're not, is it elite skill that coaches have? Or is it just you're not spending enough time kind of game planning the team that you're playing? So, again, you said that the coach has to take some type of blame, so Mike gets some of it too. Mike gets some of it too. Don't let me just give it all to Dak. Mike gets some of what happened last week too.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. So I think for the Chargers, talking about Kellen Moore, it's been kind of a mixed bag a little bit. They're averaging almost 27 or 28 points a game, I think. So they're putting points on the board. They're converting on almost 78% of their red zone opportunities into touchdowns. So when they get the ball in the red zone, they're generally punching it in and scoring 7 instead of 3, which is a huge change from what they've had the last couple of years. They're creating chunk plays in the passing game. In week 1, when Eckler was healthy, they were creating huge chunk plays in the running game, and they've even done it to some extent at times with Eckler not on the field. So those things are all really good. They've struggled on 3rd down. We've seen some issues with Kellen's scheme, allowing for defensive coordinators to scheme wide open pass rushers at Herbert in key moments, which has been an issue. And I think there's been some, like a disconnect in terms of how they're using some of their players and not necessarily understanding what certain guys do well versus what they don't do well. For example, a lot of smoke screens, a lot of bubble screens to Mike Williams before he got hurt. Now, anybody who's seen Mike Williams play knows that's not his game. He's not going to make people miss in space. He's going up and making plays down the field, right? So that's a little concerning. Obviously, it's easy to know what Keenan Allen does. He's one of the best route runners in the league. He's generally going to get himself open, and you're going to find him and make a play. Has not figured out how to use Quentin Johnston at all.
He's a weapon.
Yep. He should be a weapon. They're using him more in the Mike Williams role, which is really not what his role is. He's more of a yak guy. He should be catching those bubble screens and smoke screens, getting some slants, catching the ball on the run, and giving him a chance to make people miss. They haven't really done that. Hopefully they figured that out during week 5 during their bye week, but that's been a real issue, is getting him involved. And now they're going to have to ramp him up, I think, a lot faster than what they planned on coming into the season. And their running scheme has been kind of hot and cold. It was really good week 1. They ran a lot of power. They were very much physical, downhill, kind of run the ball down your throat in week 1, and they led the league in rushing. And then for some reason, in the last few weeks, they've gone to more outside zone, which is not what their offensive line is built for, and they've really struggled running the ball. So hopefully they figured some of these things out during week 5. But overall, I think the overall picture for Moore generally has been pretty good. Some weird kind of lulls in scoring in the second half, still having issues scoring in the third quarter, issues putting the game away in the fourth quarter when they need to. So there's definitely some areas, and struggling on third down. There's definitely some areas that they can get better at. But to be averaging, almost 27, 28 points a game through the first 4 weeks of the season is a pretty good start compared to where they've been the last few seasons. They've really struggled putting points on the board consistently. So I think we're still trying to figure out what the Chargers' offensive identity is. There was a lot of hope that they'd be throwing the ball down the field more with Kellen Moore, and they've done some of that, but they've also been really horizontal, like at times almost excessively horizontal, and it's been a little frustrating. So hopefully some of that stuff gets cleaned up. But I think that's kind of what we're looking at as Chargers fans in terms of what they're doing well and what they can do better on offense. What would you say right now the Cowboys' identity is as a football team?
That's part of the problem. We don't have one. Outside of the defense, and, the defense is definitely having to take a look at themselves after this week, and after the punishment we took in, because that was an old-fashioned butt whooping. And we've taken 2 of them this year, and hopefully we don't need a third. No, we've taken an old-fashioned butt whooping from the Cardinals of all people and the 49ers. So I don't see that we found an offensive identity yet. And the reason why I'll say that is because, like I said, we're 5 games in. You're only 5 games into a new install, a new offense. I don't even think that he's had the opportunity to try the wheels off, or to peel the tags off the wheels and let them ride for a minute. I think it's just been, the defense will score real fast and they'll give us a turnover and we'll have a short field, right? So you got 3 plays and then you have to kick a field goal. Or you'll have, 1 big play and we'll get in the end zone. So it's like, and then, the Jets are a pretty good defense. The Patriots are a pretty good defense. They just offensively are struggling, right? So when you keep good defenses out on the field, you can kind of exploit them. So, but the question you asked, and I think the easy answer is we don't have one yet. We haven't found the pace car yet. So you're seeing, like I said, you're seeing a lot of quick passes. You're seeing a lot of vertical passes, nothing really horizontal. I think he's probably dialed up at least 4 passes down the field. But 5 to CeeDee Lamb, but 4 outside of CeeDee Lamb. So, it's one of the things where I can't say, that we're like a running team or we're like a quick passing team, or we run a lot in 12 because we're doing a lot. We're running 11-man formation, but then you see us in 12 and we're running out of that. I can't say that, I hate we passed up on Sam Laporta. I can say that. Shoemaker has, our second round draft pick, hasn't done anything for us. And we lost John Stevens early, right? John Stevens was him and him and my guy Fergie, I think were gonna be the end all be all as far as our tight ends were concerned. Hendershot's been hurt. We lost Schultz. We lost Dalton Schultz. Dak needs that security blanket, and Fergie has done all he could, but you need a second one out there. And John Stevens was that guy, but he got hurt and tore his ACL early in spring camp. So, I don't think we have an identity of it yet.
So, as somebody who watches the team closely and obviously covers them, what do you think their identity should be? What would you like to see the identity be?
Well, I mean, you have one of the best offensive lines in football. So, 3 yards cloud of dust, a lot of play action, a lot of 12 personnel out of play action. So you should see a lot of play action out of 12 formation, so that way you could really get the running backs into the game. After that, you move the safeties up, because when safeties are sitting back playing double high, you're never going to get anything down the field. But if you can run the ball out of 12, bring the safeties up, and you can start hitting them over the top with deep passes. So to me, I think we should be a more physical team, more like the 49ers are. That should be what our offense looks like.
I noticed, just kind of going over some stats before we jumped on the show here, that the Cowboys are struggling in the red zone. I think they're converting like 39% of their red zone opportunities into touchdowns. What's holding them back in the red zone? What's preventing them from punching the ball in the end zone when they get down there?
Number one, I'd say the tight ends it's bad. Like, we're 30th right now in red zone conversion, and that's crazy. For us to be there, because I think we were in the top 10 as of last year. That's the first thing. The tight ends are always involved. When Kellen was here, you saw a lot of that. You saw a lot of the tight ends being involved and getting touchdowns. Then not only that, the running game, and I mean, to our defense, this is the first game we've had all of our linemen. That was the first game that we had all of our linemen. The continuity was bad. San Fran got pressure. We couldn't keep Dak clean. We couldn't keep Dakota clean. So it's like, that's one of the things. But offensively, in the red zone, I think, again, you have to use play action. You've got to be creative around the red zone. Mike's not being creative in the red zone at all. He'll run the ball on first down. Why would you do that? Mm-hmm. Why would you run the ball on first down? You're predictable. If you're running the ball on first down, you're very predictable. And that's what Mike has been, very predictable in the red zone. So you run the ball on first down, you run the ball on second down, you pass the ball on third down. Who's not going to stop that? These are the best 1% of players that you got in the whole world that play this sport. So you're not going to beat those guys too much not being creative, and I think that's one of the places where we miss Kellen, because he was always creative around the red zone.
Yeah, that was something that stood out to me when I watched Cowboys tape after the Chargers hired Kellen Moore, was a lot of different looks in the red zone. A lot of, getting Dak out on the edge, designed runs for Dak, creating one-on-one opportunities for him and a playmaker. So we had a run pass option. It seemed like they pulled everything out of the bag in the red zone. And that was something that I was really looking forward to when they hired him. Seen a little bit of it, not as much. I'd still like to see them run with Herbert more in the red zone and on certain third downs, but something that I think that's something I'm hoping they pull out of the bag more here in the coming weeks, to get Herbert going in the red zone and to really take the offense to the next level. talk to me a little bit about the Cowboys defense. What I know there's some linebacker injuries. Obviously, your front is really good. Your defensive line, Parsons is a freak. What do you see as some of the weaknesses on the defense, and what's carrying the defense right now?
Right now, turnovers is carrying us. I mean, we've had the opportunity and been blessed to get a lot of turnovers. I mean, you see Jordan Lewis is in there getting some turnovers. You spoke about LVE, which is the quarterback of the defense. Wolf Hunter is going to be missed. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. We lost Overshown early. I think DeMarvion was going to be I'm a Texas fan too, so DeMarvion was going to be a good addition to this defense. As far as linebackers concerned, if you ask me, we probably need to go out and trade for another linebacker. But that's a weak area. The linebackers are weak. I mean, we still got Damone Clark. We're bringing up Jefferson, Malik Jefferson, who played for Texas as well and played for the Bengals, and it's bounced around. So Malik Jefferson will probably come up off the practice team as well. So that's an area of concern, the linebackers. The second piece and another piece of our strength, like I said, has been the corners. Deron Bland is playing outside of his mind, but he was solid last year. He was, if you looked at it, he was one of the top corners rated by PFF last year. And before Diggs went out, he was 7 and Diggs was 3rd. So you had 2 cornerbacks that wasn't even Stephon Gilmore in the top 10 in cornerback efficiency. But now Gilmore is getting way more one-on-ones. And we've had Donovan Wilson come back, who was out a lot of spring training. If you ask me, Donovan has hurt us more than he's helped us playing himself back in. So there's another weakness at strong safety, or our robber when we play 3 safeties on the field. He's super aggressive now. If he hits you, he's coming to lay the wood, and there's turnovers that can happen. But I think Wanye Thomas is better in that spot at this point until Donovan can kind of play himself back in. And I think he just needs to play himself back in, not as a starter, but as somebody who's getting half of the snaps. So linebackers and safeties, weak spot, which used to be our strength as far as the safeties were concerned, right? Because we're getting beat on with the Cardinals. We got beat just because they schemed their tight end open twice, right? And Malik Hooker was lost, and then we got beat this week, same time. They schemed their tight end open on a triple reverse, and that just the floodgates opened on that. And again, it was Malik Hooker. So we've got to be smart and get engaged in the game defensively from the safety position. And we still have everybody. We got everybody healthy back there, and still have a supply of defensive backs and safeties.
How do you think they offset the loss of Vander Esch? Do you think there'll be more 3 safety looks, maybe with Hooker in the box, or what do you think the game plan is there?
Well, Hooker won't be in the box. Hooker's one of the guys who is going to play more free. You'll see Curse and Dono in the box more than you will him. Definitely, I think that'll be a way they offset it. They're going to move Damone Clark over to LVE's position, and like I said, they'll probably bring in Malik Jefferson from Texas, who played at the Bengals. They'll move him into Malik's spot, and of course, use Micah some. Flip Micah from defensive end back to linebacker, and they'll use him some there too, I think, to kind of offset it. But what we've been doing when we lost Overshown is we brought in Bell, who played at Florida A&M 2 years ago. He was an undrafted free agent we brought in. He's a thumper. He's a guy I really like, Marquise Bell. And Marquise has played really well in passing downs in at that linebacker position. So that's what they'll do. They'll bring Marquise in and passing downs at the linebacker position, and keep Dono, or they'll bring in Wanye in passing downs as well.
All right, well, let's take a look at some matchups here. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. All right. So this is Cowboys offense versus Chargers defense. The only thing that might change here is Bosa. We're not sure if he's going to play. I think he probably will because he's been off for a week, but you can kind of swap him in and out with Tuli Pelotu. So if you're the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, who are you looking at here in terms of wanting to attack on the Chargers defense?
Well, there's two people I'm staying away from. And I'm staying away from that whole left side. We're actually three people. Bosa, Asante Samuel Jr., and Derwin James. I'm staying away from all three of them. But Gilman can be had, Davis can be had. And literally, if I'm attacking your defense, I'm coming out of 11 and I'm running 12 personnel at y'all all day long. Mac is great against the pass, but we can run on it, right? Tyler Smith and Tyron Smith are dogs. Those 77 and 73 animals. The young Smith, which is 73, is an animal. He's probably one of the highest ranked linemen in PFF right now. I mean, he was throwing Greenlaw and the other linebacker from
Fred Warner.
Yeah, he was throwing them around. And there's a couple of plays where I was like, wow, that was my only bright spot in the game. I was like, wow, go ahead, Tyler. Do your thing, man. But no, Tyler's going to be a great one. He's going to be a great one. And of course, Zach Martin. So if I was going to attack out of 11, I would definitely run Tony Pollard towards Mack and Johnson and pull Zach Martin to where I'd overload that side and get me some wins that way, because I'm not going to get wins going to the right side of y'all's defense at all.
Yeah, I know Mack had a huge game against the Raiders 2 weeks ago. Had his 6 sacks. I think he forced 3 fumbles. He was a freak. He had not had any sacks prior to that. So he's actually been holding up extremely well against the run. Actually, he and Tuli Pelotu both have been playing really well against the run. So I think, just looking at this in terms of matchups, I think something you might see at times, you could see Kendricks come off the field in favor of a third safety. The Chargers had a couple of young safeties step up and play really well against the Raiders 2 weeks ago, that being Raheem Lane and Dean Marlowe. And both those guys played really well deep. They showed the ability to play in the box and provide run support. I think you could start to see more of them on the field than Gilman, just based on how they played. The back end of the defense was so much better with those guys on the field last week. And if that continues, then that enables the Chargers to play James in the slot a little bit. It allows them to play him off the edge, play him at some nickel linebacker, dime linebacker, and kind of get him in the box, which is where he's better. Derwin is an amazing athlete. He's a great football player. I'm not a fan of Derwin playing 15, 20 yards away from the line of scrimmage. He needs to be on the line of scrimmage and be allowed to hunt the football. And I think you can use him.
He's definitely a hunter. He's definitely a hunter.
He is.
That's
absolutely. And I think what you could see with him at times is matchup based one-on-one opportunities for him. Maybe with Cooks, maybe with Lamb, trying to take certain guys out on third downs and erase guys. He's had some success doing that. So there are some opportunities there. I would worry about Murray in the middle of the field, defending crossers, trying to cover Tony Pollard and cover in on screens and things like that. Murray is a major liability. He's played better recently, but he can still be taken advantage of, no doubt. So that always concerns me with him in the middle of the Chargers defense. And Gilman is a guy who, he's a scrapper. He played really well. He was a big reason why they beat the Vikings a couple weeks ago. Forced a couple fumbles, had a huge game. But in my opinion, he's a guy who you don't really want playing deep, particularly not as single high. He's a little bit better as a 2 high, as a split safety. but he's a guy, like you said, who I think you can go after if the opportunity presents itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next graphic, which is the Chargers offense versus the Cowboys defense. So how are you as a defensive coordinator attacking the Chargers offense or trying to stop the Chargers offense?
So a lot of times you're going to see Micah lined up on probably they'll flip him. I don't know that they'll come to Slater's side, but we did last week. We went to Williams a lot. That seems to be his best side. They'll start him outside of Slater and kind of stunt in between D-Law and Hankins. And literally that's flipped. Armstrong will always be, D-Law usually plays to the right and Armstrong will play to the left, right? So you'll have a lot of that going on because D-Law's better against the run than Armstrong is, and y'all solid side is over there with Slater. At least I think so. You can probably tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right.
Definitely, I would just where I think the defense can actually make things happen is number one. You cannot give Herbert time. You can't give Herbert time at all. So we're gonna have to run blitz. You're gonna have to see a lot of run blitzing. I think Osa is definitely gonna have his way. This is gonna be a week that I think Osa can have his way. Osa's playing lights out. Him and Hankins on the defense side of the ball. Only two players that D-Law showed up. I ain't gonna lie. D-Law's been showing up all year long, right? So if I was the betting man, Osa's gonna have a big game this game. You're gonna hear his name called a lot. I think he can have his way in the inside, and then we're gonna have to scheme up some more blitzes to stop. Because if Eckler plays, he is gonna play, right?
It looks that way, yeah.
Because I saw he was questionable yesterday, so I didn't know if he was.
He said today it's 99% he's going to play. So unless he has a setback, I'd say he's going to be out there.
Yeah, so I definitely would not allow him to get off at all. I don't want him to get running starts. I don't want him to get passes out of the backfield, which he's gonna. I don't want to see Micah in pass coverage. So literally, I want to see, because you're probably going to end up seeing Micah over on, like I said, outside of Armstrong or outside of Lawrence, and the two linebackers will switch over. You see that a lot in our defensive scheme, right? So you'll see Damone actually having to cover Eckler, and that I think is plus y'all. If he gets out of wheel routes, that's advantage y'all, and I don't want to see that. So, like I said, we're gonna have to get pressure early. We're gonna have to get pressure also often, and we're gonna have to really, kind of stay in Herbert's face. Last thing I'll say is Johnson's got a size advantage, right? Bland is tall, but Johnson's 6'4". If y'all decide to go up top, that may be a problem, but I think Bland can handle himself because we play a lot of man press. And single high safety. So you'll get single high to one side. Dono is usually around the line of scrimmage. So you'll either have Curse, or most of the time that's going to be Malik Hooker. That's why you see him getting burnt a lot. It'll be Malik Hooker back there. So again, we've got to get pressure early. We've got to get pressure often. And I think the place where we can get the most pressure is in between Clapp and Sawyer. That's where I would attack if I was Dan Quinn.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on point. The right side of the Chargers offensive line concerns me a little bit right now. I think Clapp has been okay as a blocker. Problem with him is when Lindsley is out, the communications break down in the middle of the line, and they tend to miss their handoffs. They tend to miss their protection slides and things like that. So That's where they really struggle, is with the communication, and that really worries me with stunts and blitzes and things like that against the Cowboys, that it could turn into a really ugly day if they don't have a good plan for that. Pipkins also concerns me. If you've got Parsons on the right side, I don't know if you watched the Charger Raider game, but Max Crosby ate Pipkins' lunch all day long. So, and Parsons is just a step or two above Crosby. So that concerns me. Slater on Parsons, I mean, it's a tough matchup, but I think Slater can handle it. But that Pipkins and Salyer matchup with Parsons is a little scary for me. If I'm Kellen Moore, I'm trying to attack the middle of the field. You mentioned it. I'm throwing at Clark. I'm throwing at Jefferson when he's on the field. I'm throwing it at Hooker. I'm trying to run some crossers, some digs in the middle of the field, get behind the linebackers and in front of the safeties, and try to get chunk plays up the seams, between the numbers, things like that, between the hashes. I think that's where they need to live. They've done some of that. They haven't done enough of it at times, in my opinion. I do think you're still going to see a lot of the horizontal passing game, a lot of the screens, a lot of the jet sweeps and things like that, trying to set up plays down the field later on. But yeah, I'm definitely attacking the linebackers. I'm going to go after the safeties, try to create some big plays deep. I think a guy who could have a big game potentially is Gerald Everett, who's been kind of quiet this season, but he's really good in the middle of the field. He's great with the ball in his hands after the catch, and he's a guy who I could see them trying to get the ball to more, especially with Mike Williams not available. So some big matchups there, I think, for sure, that if things go the right way, they could benefit the Chargers, but they've got to have a really good game plan, because the corners are going to be tough. The Chargers have had a hard time separating at times with their wide receiver group, so they're going to have to try to find a way to get guys open in space and create run after the catch opportunities.
And another thing you're going to see is Jefferson off the field, right? Or you might it'll be like this. So you'll see Armstrong off the field, Parsons will take his place, right? You'll see Jefferson off the field, and you'll see Jordan Lewis in the game, right? So Jordan Lewis against Everett, I like. Jordan Lewis against Allen, I don't. That's a whole nother different ball game, right? So literally, I would rather see that flipped a little bit, and Gilmore on Allen and Lewis on Palmer. That would be better for me all day long, because that worries me now that I'm sitting here looking at it. That super worries me, right? Everett, I think he's good. I had him on my fantasy team, and last year he hit some numbers for me. But I could see where that would be an advantage. But like I said, the biggest thing, you watch what I'm telling you. Biggest thing is we cannot allow Eckler to get on the edge and start catching passes, swing passes, none of that, because that will be a bad day for us. Because once he starts getting out, those are chunk plays waiting to happen. And yeah, we're gonna tackle, we're gonna get to the ball, but he's not a guy that I'm just happy to have the ball in his hands and him running around the end with a 5-yard stride. I'm not happy about that.
Yeah, Eckler is going to be a huge addition to have him back. He's missed the last 3 games. They love to get him the ball in space, but I think even more so, he's going to breathe some life into the running game, because they've had a hard time getting consistent success on the ground without Eckler. So hopefully that brings back a little bit more of the downhill power running scheme, because they had a lot of success with that against the Dolphins in week 1, and it's kind of tapered off a little bit the last few weeks. But if they can have some success on the ground, they can run some play action. I think there's going to be some opportunities to make those plays behind the linebackers and score some points.
Agreed.
So, what is your prediction for the game?
Man, so I honestly, if I'm thinking about a score and the pattern that I think this game is going to take, Honestly, I can't see it breaking into a score fest. I see it being like a 31-24 kind of game, 31-24. I do think we're going to pull it out. I do think we actually come back this week. If we don't, I mean, we'll know that early. You'll know what type of game this is going to be in the first quarter of this ball game. If you don't see the Cowboys come out hyped and ready to play, because I mean, we got demoralized. We got demoralized, so that can stay in your head for a couple weeks. So if you see them come out playing hard the very first couple of series of the game, I'm telling you, Cowboys 31-20, 31-24, 31-24, maybe even 31-28, maybe win it by a field goal. It's going to be a close game. It won't be a blowout at all.
Yeah, I've always thought the Chargers and the Cowboys have a lot in common in terms of they always seem to have a lot of talent, but they never seem to live up to it on the field. And they both seem to find creative ways to lose games, which is super frustrating. I think for me, the Chargers have had extra time to prepare for this game because they had a bye week last week. They've cleared themselves of a major headache in J.C. Jackson, who was a major problem for them before they traded him back to the Patriots. And the coaches have something to prove. Staley is, I think, definitely on the hot seat. I think he's fighting to keep his job right now. They need to get on the winning side of things and have a winning record heading into their matchup with the Chiefs. And I think they're going to be fired up and ready to go. So I have the Chargers winning this game. I agree with you. I think it's going to be close, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I'm going to say 34-28 Chargers.
We have similar scores, different winners. I can agree with that. I can see it going either way. Like I said, it just depends on which Dallas team shows up. And usually after we lose, you see a Dallas team that's pissed off and motivated and ready to get back to winning, right? So, I think that's the team that's going to show up. So I do believe that it's going to be hard sledding for the Chargers in this game. Not to say that they can't do anything. I just think it's going to be hard sledding.
So if you had to pick 3 keys to the game that you think have to happen for the Cowboys to win, what would they be?
Pressure busts a pipe, or it makes a diamond. And we can't allow it to make a diamond in Justin Herbert's case. We need to pressure him. One thing I know about Justin Herbert, if you can get to him, get in his face, he will throw an interception. He will turn the ball over if you can get in his face. He's a gunslinger with a big arm. And if you give him time, he will beat you. He's dangerous like that. So that's the key. Pressure. The second thing is and this is all on the defensive side of the ball. Second thing is we can't allow Eckler to be involved in this game. He has to be a no-show. We got to treat him like, we do CMC as far on the ground. He can't have over 50 yards rushing, and he definitely can't have 20 to 30 yards receiving. If he has over that at all, we lose that game. It is what it is. And then the last thing is that we got to contain the big play. We have to make sure that there are no, big dynamic plays down the field, because this offense could score fast and it can score punches it can score in a New York minute. It can really, really score fast, and they can score in bunches. So that's defensively our keys. And I say on the offensive side of the ball, we have to in turn get down the field, right? We've got to take some chances and try to get at the safety on the left side of you guys' defense early. We need to get Tony Pollard involved in the running game and in the passing game. And that's pretty much what I say will be a keys to victory for the Cowboys.
I think for the Chargers, they really have to get to Dak early. They can't let him sit in the pocket and pick them apart. They've got to get in his face and fluster him, see if they can force a couple turnovers. They really have to attack the linebackers. When Jefferson and Clark are on the field together, whether it's Eckler, whether it's Everett, whether it's crossers, deep overs, whatever it might be, they have to get in between the linebackers and the safeties to create chunk plays. And they're going to have to create a couple plays down the field beyond the safeties. Play action. If they can establish Eckler early in the running game, it just opens things up for them so much more. And they just haven't had that, so they've been really one-dimensional the last couple weeks. Defensively, I'm sorry, I already said defensively. I would like to see, I mentioned the safeties for the Chargers. I would like to see Marlowe and Lane on the field more, which would allow them to play James down in the box and allow them to blitz him and use him as a pass rusher and hunt the football a little bit more. I think the team that is the most successful or most efficient in the red zone and the most efficient on third down probably comes out winning this game.
I think I'll add to this too. I think the team that's the most physical wins this game.
I think that's a good point. That's something that the Chargers have struggled with at times. They can kind of wilt under the pressure. So hopefully they're ready for a very physical slugfest and they're ready to run the ball and be effective doing that. Because if they abandon the run early, they're in big trouble.
Yeah, because we're good at hunting. We're good at hunting the pass. So that's, if there's one thing that the defense is great at, if they get you behind the chains, you're in trouble.
All right. Well, Ahmad, you want to let everybody know where they can find you and your podcast?
Definitely, man. You can catch us, anywhere you get your audio podcast, iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, all of those places, Spotify. Anywhere you go to get your audio podcast, you can find us there at Cowboys Global Cast. We are DC4L. You catch me and Tom there, my co-host. And then also you find us on YouTube. We are DC4L, and we are Dallas Cowboys for life. So you can catch us there. And also I do a podcast called The Know-It-Alls, and that's on a Sunday, and you can find us at The Know-It-Alls on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, Ahmad, I really appreciate you coming on. I think this was a really good show. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I did.
Definitely.
So thanks for coming on. Hopefully we can do this again, maybe for a Super Bowl matchup later in the year.
That would be epic. That would be epic if we could do it that. Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show. There's a lot of information here. Just a quick reminder, weekly content for the Lightning Round podcast moving forward. Every Tuesday, we've got Garrett with Score More. On Wednesdays, we've got me and a special guest with the walkthrough. On Thursdays, you've got our mailbag show, the TLR Roundtable. On Fridays, you've got Craig with I Got 5 on it. And of course, every game day, right after the game, you've got our live, unfiltered reactions to the game on After Hours. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Ahmad, thank you again. Really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your time. And go Chargers.